Breaking news tonight, President Obama's historic move to correct a national injustice. Tomorrow night, he'll announce his plan to fix America's broken immigration system, moving past years of GOP gridlock to help up to 5 million immigrants stay in this country and pursue the American dream. He teased the announcement today on Facebook.
Everybody agrees that our immigration system is broken. Unfortunately, Washington has allowed the problem to fester for too long. And so what I'm going to be laying out is the things that I can do with my lawful authority as president to make the system work better.
Our system is broken, and the president is moving forward because House Republicans have refused to act. The Senate passed an immigration bill last summer. 14 Republicans voted for it. But when it went to the House, Speaker Boehner ignored it. It's been 510 days now, 510 days that House Republicans have refused to vote on the Senate bill or pass one of their own. It's what the president has asked for over and over again.
I am always interested in negotiating a legislative solution to the immigration problem. Pass a bill I can sign on this issue. The minute they pass a bill that addresses the problems with immigration reform, I will sign it.
If they don't like his plan, they could pass a bill. But what are we hearing instead? Speaker Boehner's spokesperson says, quote, if Emperor Obama ignores the American people and announces an amnesty plan, he will cement his legacy of lawlessness. But name-calling won't fix our immigration system, and until Speaker Boehner and his colleagues start doing real work, the president's moving forward in a move that will reshape America and his presidency. Joining me now are Congresswoman Loretta Sanchez, Democrat of California, and Jonathan Capehart of the Washington Post. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks,
Thank you, Reverend.
Congresswoman, how do you feel about the president's announcement? How do you feel ahead of it tonight?
Reverend, I'm elated that the president is finally making some movement on this broken immigration system. He came in 6 years ago. He knew this was a problem. I've been in the Congress 18 years. We've been trying to get something. We've been trying to make it go. The Senate passed this, as you said, 510 days ago, and yet the House Republicans have refused to allow us a vote on any kind of reform, comprehensive immigration reform that we need. So finally, we've been asking the president, give us some relief. Help these families who are being torn apart. These are, American value system. The American value system says keep your families together. It says keep your mom with the kids, keep them together. And what we've been doing is tearing communities apart. So I'm elated that the president has finally stood up and said, you know what? If the Republicans won't do something, I will.
Jonathan, how big a moment is this in the Obama presidency?
It's a big moment. When you listen to the Republican critics of the president, they make a good point. Why didn't the president do this when the Democrats controlled both houses of Congress during the first 2 years of his first term? And the problem with that is that the president decided to push health care first because Washington can't handle two big ideas at the same time. It's a big deal because the president promised the immigrant communities and immigrant activists that he would take executive action if the Congress didn't move legislatively. He said so from the Rose Garden back in June and said at the end of the summer. And then he went back on that promise and said by the end of the year, after the midterm elections, listening to Democrats who were saying, please don't do this, please don't take executive action before the midterm elections to help save some Democratic seats. That didn't happen. The Democrats still lost and lost by a lot. And so now the president is looking to fulfill his promise, but also to take some action. And the other thing that we have to keep in mind here, this is a big deal, primarily because it's a temporary action. All executive orders are temporary, and what the president will announce tomorrow is temporary. The only way to make what happens tomorrow permanent, or to bring any kind of permanency to the undocumented immigrants here in this country right now, is for Congress to do something, for Congress to pass a bill.
Congresswoman, you know, our new NBC poll shows the American people are conflicted on this issue. 48% disapprove of the president's executive action, but 57% support a path to citizenship. NBC's Democratic pollster said, quote, "The public wants this policy. That doesn't mean they'll be happy with how it might get done." Now, how does the president explain why his action is necessary tomorrow night, Congresswoman?
Yes. Well, look, the president has worked. He has worked with the Congress. He's worked with the Republicans. I think he's been over backwards to try to get an immigration reform bill done. It's pretty apparent that we haven't gotten it done, that the Republicans, in particular in the House, have just refused to bring a bill up for a vote. So now the president is saying, you know, I am going to act. Now, he's not going to act on all, you know, the American people have to understand, what is the president likely to do? What are we hearing he is going to do? What he is saying is, if there are families in America and there is a U.S.-born child, for example, or a resident child in the family, or in the immediate family, then those who don't have documents are going to get to stay with the child in the family unit, and they're going to get work papers so that they can work permits. So it's going to allow them to work, and it's going to allow them not to look over their shoulder each and every day to see if they're going to be snapped up and deported out of this country, and then these children who are American citizens be left behind without their mom or their dad or somebody to help them to grow up. That's all the president's doing. It's not a huge thing. You know, it's not like, you know, we're letting every person who doesn't have documents in this country in. We're talking about keeping families together.
Now, right on that point, I want you to stay with me, Congresswoman Sanchez, and you too, Jonathan, because we have to remember that the president's action is about helping real people. People like Ola Kasso. She's an Albanian immigrant whose story was featured in a recent documentary, The Dream Is Now.
Ola was released after 10 hours in the detention center. Her attorney said there was a possibility she could stay in the country, but her mother would have to leave.
No, there's no way we're doing that.
She decided to go public with her story.
It's not about you anymore. You're doing them an injustice if you keep quiet about it.
1 week before her high school graduation, Ola was granted a temporary stay.
I have a chance to graduate, a chance to be a doctor. There is no better feeling than that.
Let's bring in Ola Kasso. Ola, what do you hope to hear from the president tomorrow night?
I think ideally, I mean, I can't speak on behalf of everyone in our community, but we would like to see 11 million people included in this executive action.
You'd like to see 11 million?
Yes.
And explain to someone out there that is on the fence, that don't know where they are, why this is so important to you. You're not a congresswoman like Congresswoman Sanchez. You're not a journalist like Jonathan Capehart. You are a young lady that we just showed a clip of your story. Tell me the human side of what this means. Forget Washington politics. What does this mean to you and 11 million other people?
Well, quite frankly, Congress has failed to act. For 6 years, Congress has failed to do their jobs and act on immigration and create a stable and essentially a common sense reform for 11 million people in this country. And so the executive action could provide stability for hopefully everyone in our community to stop having to fear deportations and being separated from their families and not having any certainty about their future or what's to come.
What are your dreams?
So
what are you hoping to do in America?
I'm hoping to become a doctor, and I have parents that have raised me in this country and have raised me to believe in the American dream and everything that this country has to offer. And I would love to see them have the stability and have opportunities to grow in this country as I've had the opportunities to do so. And executive action could provide that, not only for my parents, but for our entire community.
Jonathan, isn't that what this is really all about?
Yeah, I mean, for folks who focus on the politics of all this, it might seem everyone focuses on the cold political calculation. But what's driving the White House and what's driving the president in particular are people like Ola, are people like Erica Andiola and others who we've gotten to know, especially over the last summer, who are fighting to keep their families together, who are fighting for themselves to stay in the country and fighting for others to be able to come out of the shadows, to no longer be undocumented, and to be fully a part of the American story and the American dream. But the one thing that we all have to keep in mind, as I said in my first answer, what the president is going to announce tomorrow won't be the 11 million that Ola hopes that he will announce. Probably will affect about 5 million people. But what the president is going to announce is something that is temporary. And unless Congress steps forward and does something on immigration reform, all of these families, the 11 million families, the 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country will still be in some sort of jeopardy.
Congresswoman, today Senator Ted Cruz wrote an op-ed titled, "Obama is not a monarch." He says the Senate shouldn't confirm a single nominee, executive or judicial, outside of vital national security positions because of the executive action. And Congress should use the power of the purse to strip the authority from the president to grant amnesty. Translation, government shutdown. Isn't that going to backfire on the GOP, Congresswoman?
I believe so. I mean, I've been talking to some of my more moderate Republican friends here in the House of Representatives, and they are scared to death of a government shutdown because they understand that Ted Cruz drove a government shutdown the last time, that past October, and that he will not blink an eye to shut down the government. He's like a little kid throwing a tantrum, and this is what this guy does, and he talks some guys over here to doing the same thing. And you know, that is what the American people do not want. They want their government to function. They want us to work together. The president has worked and worked and worked at this, and these guys have refused to vote in this House of Representatives. So, you know, if they're not going to come along and help us to help families, working families, families who are decent families, families who are deacons in churches, families who are PTA moms, families who volunteer at hospice homes and stuff, if they are not willing to help us, to help Americans' families, then the president is going to sign it and go alone at it.
Ola, let me go back to Ola before we run out of time. What do you say to people that say you are not an American, you shouldn't be here?
Well, this country was built on immigrants. It was built on the foundation that if you come here, you work hard, you can earn your place here. And so, quite frankly, I think that their thoughts are really incongruent to the American ideals and the foundations that this country has been built upon.
Well, let me say, I look forward to one day calling you Dr. Queso.
Thank you so much.
Congresswoman, thank you,
Reverend.
Loretta Sanchez. Thank you, Congresswoman Sanchez. Thank you, Jonathan Capehart. And thank you, Dr. To-be Ola Caso, God willing. Thank you for your time tonight.